All right. So we are here with my good friend, Tiffany Joy Murchison. And this is another installment of our Bigger and Better Business, Small Business video podcast. And I've been looking forward to having this opportunity to sit with someone that I know pretty well. And I'm hoping that it gives you an opportunity to get to know her as well as I do, or know about how dope that I think a business person that she is. So was really excited to have this opportunity to speak with her. I'll let her introduce herself and her company.
You
Tiffany.
did not tell me you were going to say all of that. So I'm blushing a little bit here, but I am Tiffany Joy Murchison. I'm the founder and CEO of TJM and Co. Media Boutique. We are a public relations agency located in Brooklyn. Our tagline is where PR meets purpose, because the work that we do has to have some social good impact at the end of the day. Most people think of PR, they think of entertainers and red carpets and all that, and that's not what we do. And I sleep really well at night because of the work we do. So I'm excited about that. I'm a mom, a business owner, a city college alum, a dog mom. I think that's me in a nutshell.
So, get into that. What is your story? Tell us about your story. How did your company come to be?
I always tell everyone that God kicked me out of corporate America 3 times because I would not listen. That's how hard-headed I am. I've always been headstrong, always danced to the beat of my own drum. I spent 15 years in the telecom industry in various positions, got laid off, became a mom, bought a house, bought a car, got laid off. Oh, shoot, what do you do? I decided to go back to school, finish my undergrad, dragged my daughter to classes with me. So she probably got a college degree a lot earlier on. She should have gotten a college degree a lot earlier on than now. But went back to work in the financial services industry, worked a few years, maybe 3-4 years, and then Hurricane Sandy hit. Last one in is always the first one out. Got laid off again, that was number 2. And at that point, I was like, okay, God, maybe I need to start my own business. Is that what you're telling me? And I did formulate the LLC. I incorporated things. But then 6 months after that, a very good friend and mentor at that same financial services company got a pretty substantial promotion and became one of the top African Americans at that company at the time, and said, I need you to come back. I need you to help me build a team. And I said, okay, I'll go back for 6 months, save up some money, then I'll do what it is I set out to do. 6 months turned into almost 2 years, and I got laid off again. And at that point, I was like, okay, apparently corporate America is no longer where I need to be. I went to church one day. I go to church all the time, but this one particular day, I was ushering at church, ran into a member of our church who ran a nonprofit organization, and she started telling me that she was losing her publicist, that he was moving on to something else, and she was, worried and frantic. And I said, well, I just started a PR firm, and that was it. I was hired. I did a happy dance, worked with her for 2 years, and the rest is history. Here we are 6 years later.
I don't think you've ever told me that story.
That God kicked me out of corporate America 3 times?
I knew about the I don't think I knew about how you got your first client, but that's really interesting. So so now thinking back on that experience and what you've been through, how is that been as you've gone from being a startup, a solopreneur, to now having team members and clients, and what is that journey been like?
It was a big lesson that you cannot do everything yourself for too long. And I tell any entrepreneur that do not plan, or I wore every hat that I could wear. And I was kind of like that in corporate. My team used to say I was the WD-40 of the group. If it squeaked, I fixed it. I knew how to fix the copy machine. I knew how to do this. I knew how to do that. And I took that same spirit into entrepreneurship. And I was trying to be my own accountant and my own everything. And then I quickly came to realize that just because I knew how to do something didn't mean that I was the best at it, one. And two, it didn't mean that I should actually be doing it. So my journey to have employees started with interns from the SYEP program. I got my first employee.
What is SYEP, just for people who don't
Summer
know?
Youth Employment Program. So my first employee was,
Shout out to them.
Oh, definitely shout out to them. But my first employee was an intern that I got through the SYEP program. She actually was in school for marketing and PR, so it just worked. And when the summer was over, I hired her part-time, and that was my first employee. And since then, I've had, a few employees here and there. I know this is like the largest team that I've had as we've hit 6 years. And I still don't feel like we have enough people.
Mm-hmm. So, okay, so how do you feel that growth has been? Has that been scary? Has it been something that you've welcomed? When you say that you don't know, and then there's kind of a secondary question, when you say that you haven't grown the team to where it needs to be, what does that look like?
So when I started, just to give you some context, I said, I'm going to be the Black Ogilvy and Mather.
Right.
Like that was my goal.
Right.
But we say things and we don't actually grasp the fullness of what that means until you start to you're on that path. So it's kind of like, being on a roller coaster, and the higher up you get, the greater the anticipation, the fear, the butterflies in your stomach get before you go over that hump. And then when you get to the bottom, you're like, oh my God, that was great. It wasn't so bad. And you go to do it again. That's kind of how growing a business is. I mean, I've always said it. I never intended to be a small mom and pop. I'm going to be the Black Ogilvy and Mather. I don't know who the other person is going to be, but it's going to be Murchison and something, right? And when it starts to happen, sometimes there's doubt that sets in, like, wait, am I ready for this? Can I really do this? Do I really want this? Because a lot that comes with the growth of a business. There's a lot of responsibility, both professionally and personally. There are expectations that people put on you, expectations you put on yourself. So it does absolutely get scary. And I question it. Like, do I really want this? At the end of the day, the answer is hell yes. But there are those days, Juan, you can attest to them, when I'm like, I don't know. Okay, I do know. The answer is yes. But so any entrepreneur, I would say, the butterflies are going to come. You got to just breathe through them and then keep it pushing. If that's what you want, you'll know it's what you want because you are not satisfied without it. You have moments of contentment, but they don't last long because you're like, all right, what's next? And as you approach that, what's next, then there's the fear, like, do I really want this? Yeah, I really want this, and you'll push through it.
Do you feel that has that you're driven by being, and I know we've talked a lot about being a Black woman in public relations. Do you feel that that's a responsibility that is one that you embrace, or do you feel that is something that to some degree can be sort of a burden on your back as being one of the few?
I want to say it's a little bit of both. Probably more so I embrace it than I see it as a burden. I think the burden comes in when I see other just Black female, Black, women business owners who in opinion don't come correct, right? For whatever reason, I think that's where the burden is. The embracing of it is
What does that look like? What do you mean? To kind of expand upon that, because I know that's something we talk about a lot.
So I'll give you an example. I recently had someone reach out to me for my assistance in something and schedule a call with me. And the day of the call was my goddaughter's master's degree graduation. So we were celebrating. But because I had scheduled this call, I made sure that I left the celebration, got in my car, prepared myself for the call, and the person never showed up. I sent an email like, hey, we had a call scheduled, blah, blah, blah. And 30 minutes in, I got an email from them like, can you call me at this number? And by that time I had moved on to something else. So they went ahead and rescheduled with me, and I saw it pop up. There was my apologies for missing the last, nothing, no communication. On the day of the rescheduled meeting, my expectation was that they would get on the call and say, oh, I'm so sorry, that I missed or whatever. Nope, they came on like we had just scheduled one meeting yesterday. I had come to the office with a baseball cap on that day, as I often do. And knowing I had a call, made sure that I was able to take my hat off, be presentable, to be respectful to this other Black woman that I am about to talk to. And she got on the call, workout clothes. Literally, she looked like she had rolled out of bed. And I was highly offended because you were coming to me for something. And I had not once, but twice made provision to make sure that I was prepared to give you my absolute best. Right. And you showed up like you were walking to the store for a quart of water and a bag of chips or something.
Interesting. So do you feel that, and there's a lot of talk, especially in this environment, we're approaching Juneteenth, and all of a sudden Juneteenth is a national holiday, that I just found out today. How did all this happen? Do you feel that the push to support Black things, Black businesses, do you feel that we're ready for that? Do you feel that, as Black businesses, we are ready to meet that moment?
Nope. No. For a number of reasons.
Okay.
And I said this in an MWBE meeting that—
What is MWBE, just for—
Minority and Women-Owned Business Enterprise.
Okay.
A couple of years back, I said that in an MWBE meeting, and a guy almost jumped out of his seat to argue the point with me. I mean, really, aggressively, because I said, if we want a seat at the table, we are owed a seat at the table. When we get to the table, we need to come correct, and we don't often do that. And those of us that do that need to help the others who are not quite sure how to do that in doing that. And he liked to take my head off. But I have to be honest, we would not continue to support, or we should not continue to support any other establishment that, if we go there, like for example, a restaurant, and the first time it's great, and then every other time after that, they only have 2 things on the menu, right? You went there, you had the meatloaf was great. The next 4 times you go, oh, we don't have meatloaf today. You wouldn't go back. Why do we expect that as Black-owned businesses, we should be allowed to provide service that is less than a level of excellence? And yes, we have obstacles. Yes, there are obstacles with funding. I get all of that. But those obstacles should not impact how you show up. They may impact your ability to build capacity at a particular level, but they should never impact how you show up. They should never impact how you treat your customers or your clients. They should never impact how much you invest in yourself, even if it is learning. I posted something the other day that said, if you want to have a successful business, you need a functioning website, not just a website, a functioning website. That's a simple thing. I should not click on a link on your website to shop and it doesn't open up your catalog of items. Right. That makes no sense. And those things are simple fixes, but we tend to take the push to support Black-owned businesses as an opportunity to get a pass when we need to get our stuff together. And some folks are gonna be real mad at me, but it is what it is.
No, I think it's, I didn't actually, think that we would touch on this, but I think it's a valuable, it's worthwhile conversation. My question is a follow-up is, do you feel that we as Black consumers afford the same for non-Black enterprise? No?
No. So on the flip side, as Black consumers, I think we do our Black-owned businesses a disservice because somewhere along the lines, somebody said Black means cheaper. So if ABC PW company is, selling something for $5, then the Black-owned business should be giving it to me for $1.50.
Got it. So do you feel that this concept, and we'll get back to, I want to focus on TJM and Co, but do you feel that this concept of supporting, do you feel that people should support your business because you are a Black-owned business?
First,
or do you feel,
yes.
Okay.
Yes. And you know how much I fuss at you. I'll use this as the example. Mr. Farmer Station is the last Black-owned gas station in the state of New York. Right. I do not understand why the line, and he's in Bedford-Stuyvesant. We complain about gentrification, but you have the only Black-owned gas station left in the state of New York, and their lines are not around the corner. Ever since I found that out, I make it my business as much as I can to go to Mr. Farmer Station. Now, I've heard all sorts of things. His gas is a couple cents more expensive. Well, if he had more customers, he could buy gas in a higher quantity and he would get his gas at a lower rate per gallon, which means he would be able to transfer that savings onto us at a lower rate. It's a full service gas station at that, right? It used to be 24 hours, but somebody tried to rob him and they shot him. And now he's not 24 hours. It baffles me that we don't at least give him, he's got a mechanic shop there. Like, it baffles me that we don't at least give him the business first, right? Now, if I went to Mr. Farmer's gas station once or twice and my car started acting up and his gas was bad, then that would be a different story. But at the very least, I should give him the shot to win me over because he looks like me, because we are the only community that does not do that. Now, we know Bed-Stuy is right next to Williamsburg. You let there be one Jewish-owned gas station left in New York State in Williamsburg, and they will drive past 10,000 gas stations to Williamsburg to that one Jewish-owned gas station because they believe in supporting each other just that much. But as Black people, and I said this recently on my Facebook page, I feel like we have never been taught to a certain extent to develop boundaries. So we don't expect people to give us boundaries. We think that we're work for me for free, give me something at a cheaper price. We will run and spend a couple $100s on a t-shirt at Gucci. And then if somebody debuts a t-shirt line on Facebook and the shirts are $40, then you're like, that's too, I'm not paying $40 for a shirt that's just because it says melanin. How about you pay $40 for the shirt because it says melanin, but because you're investing into your community? That makes no sense to me.
Shout out to Melanin and Farmers gas station located on Troop Avenue and Gates.
And I practice what I preach because I have on a Black-owned t-shirt line today. So shout out to Digital Rebel.
But they got to provide good service at the same time.
Gotta provide good service.
Gotta
Don't let us
provide
off the
good
hook, but tell us. Don't walk away and say, I'm not ever going there again. Let us know that we didn't do a good job. Give us the feedback. And then business owners, when you get the feedback, be honest, because we know when we mess up. We know when our stuff is not right. So when you get that feedback, do an honest evaluation and change what you can change to do better the next time. So it's twofold. It's consumer and business.
Makes sense. So let's bring it back. I do want to talk about, the TJM and Co brand. What's up with the giraffes? Tell me a little bit about these giraffes and the colors and what have you.
Purpose. So the giraffe's name is Purpose.
Okay.
And I'll tell you where that came from. When I was a little girl, I had a toy giraffe from FAO Sports, and I did not grow up with money.
But the giraffe is supposed to be Toys R Us. But anyway,
no. So I had a giraffe of not life size, but for me, life size is little girl giraffe from FAO Sports, which was a specialty toy store way back in the days. Mm-hmm. And it was one of my favorite toys until my cousin, shout out to my cousin Jermaine for sitting on my giraffe and breaking his neck. And there went my giraffe. But I've had an affinity for giraffes since I was a little girl. It kind of went away. And then a couple of years ago, I read a book by T.D. Jakes titled Instinct. And it talked about following your instincts, knowing innately what you're good at. And he used a giraffe and turtles to tell the story. And there were a couple of things that he said. He said, when you're a giraffe, you can't listen to the chatter of the turtles because what they're saying may be right for them, but their perspective is different because they're low to the ground. And a giraffe is tall and therefore can see further out, has a much greater perspective, a longer vision. That was one of the things he said. Then he said something to the effect that if a giraffe, the way that a giraffe is made anatomically, if they lower their head below their heart for too long, they will pass out. And he used that to say that when you were built, created by God to be tall, to be a giraffe, to have vision that other people don't see, lowering your perspective can endanger your position. And that just ignited, I was like, oh my God, I feel like a giraffe. I wanted to do things and there were always naysayers and people saying, no, you just need to go get a job and don't do this and da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. You run across people that, that you think would support you and they don't. And at that point in my life reading that book, I just felt like a giraffe. I felt like a giraffe surrounded by turtles. I needed a new tribe. There were people who just didn't get it. And I knew that God had called me to do other things. And so I started to relate to the giraffe. A couple of years later, I had an intern. Shout out to the Futures and Options program, because I also have interns from them. I had a young lady by the name of Feng who would do anime drawings and stuff like that. She was a graphics design intern for me. And I said, so you know what? I want a mascot. And I explained to her the same thing I explained to you, how I had an affinity for giraffes, how I think they are just so tall and so regal and so unbothered, right? Because I really want to go through life sometimes unbothered by the little petty stuff. And I told her all of that. I told her about the book. And I said, so I need a mascot and I want her to be feminine. I want people to look at it and say that's a female giraffe, but I don't want it to be cartoonish. And I want it to be in our brand colors. And she drew Purpose.
So Purpose, you spoke about that early on, and all of what you do in working with your clients involves purpose. And one of the big things about our organization is Highbrid, as well as Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated, and our Bigger and Better Business Initiative is about purpose. How have you been able to effectively weave that into your brand positioning in a way that it's cohesive and makes sense and is communicated to your client. As a PR agency, I find that, very fascinating, and would like to hear how you went about doing that.
It was God initially, I have to be honest. Coming out of corporate America and wanting to go into PR, I had done a few things. I had worked at the Source magazine during my college time. I had been a promoter and thrown parties. I grew up in New York City in the bad boy 90s, so.
You got the job that I didn't get. I remember I was in the back of the Source interviewing with all of them. You got the job that I didn't get.
So, I had done those things. And so the media, the comms, the music, initially way back when I wanted to be an entertainment attorney. I love music, love the entertainment industry, and knew folks, promoters and producers and so forth and so on. So when I first said, I'm going to do PR full time, right away, I initially thought entertainment. Oh, this should be easy breezy. I know this person and that person, and I'm in New York City and so forth and so on. It was just by happenstance that I got the client that I got from church. And I was like, all right, God, first client out the door. I still wasn't thinking that that would be our sole niche, right? Purposeful client. And I remember her telling me this particular client the organization had been birthed around the earthquake in Haiti. And they were approaching their 5th anniversary. And what they had done was they raised money for the cholera outbreak, for clean water, all kind of things in Haiti. And they did it by putting on a play. One of the ways was by putting on a play each year. And each play was a continuation of the previous year, which told the story of what was going on in the town that they were supporting in Haiti. And they did this, like I said, every year. And this was their 5th anniversary when I started working with them. And the executive director and founder of the organization said to me, I have never been able to sit and watch the play in its entirety because nothing is ever smooth enough. And I never have an opportunity to eat. They would put on this whole IET marché, like a Haitian open market with food and vendors and everything else in the lobby of the theater. And she never got to enjoy those things. And I remember saying to myself, she's going to enjoy those things this year. And she did. She ate. She watched a play that she wrote from beginning to end. She was at peace. She was comfortable. She remarked to me that it was the best year, and it was their 5th anniversary. And she attributed that to the work that I and my small team had done at the time. And that was like the aha moment, that it wasn't the entertainment stuff, that at the end of the day, when I closed my laptop or went home, I needed to be able to tell my kids, I needed to be able to lay my head down at night, knowing that there was a population of people that were directly impacted by the work my clients did and thus indirectly impacted by me. It just clicked. And so when people think of PR, they think of superficialness, red carpets, Grammys, celebrities. And I said, we got to translate that. We have to tell people that that's not all that PR is about. And so that this is where TJM and Co. is going to be where PR meets purpose. Right. And that's just kind of how it happened.
That's super dope. And, again, that's not something that I don't think we've ever had that conversation. But, what I'm hearing, and especially at, which is kind of a good segue into my next question, but with our discussion about Black-owned business, we measure success in terms of dollars and fame, right? Mm-hmm. Very infrequently, because we're fighting to get to a certain point, and rightfully so. Mm-hmm. We don't measure success in terms of peace. Mm-hmm. And what you just described and what you uniquely are able to do for an organization, a business, is provide that peace of mind that didn't exist within their organization before, because either they're riding their team because they've got to be the best, and sleepless nights, and not being able to enjoy the work and the fruits of their labor. Your USP, your unique selling proposition in providing peace is really, really remarkable. So I commend you on that. It is a segue into, I wouldn't be me if I didn't talk about some of, how you measure things. How do you measure success? What are some of the KPIs that you track? From a day-to-day, what are the things that you look at to know whether or not you're successful? Is it simply revenue? Is it simply number of clients? What does that look like for you in your business?
So I wouldn't lie and say that revenue doesn't matter, because it does.
Okay.
You could probably tell by looking at me, I like nice things. So that is important to me, but it's not the most important thing to me. Before, and you know this about me, Juan, that before I worry about me, I worry about my staff. So being able to operate the business for a long time, was the KPI. Like, can we pay the bills? Can I pay folks? That was the way in which I measured success from a revenue standpoint. From a client,
it sounds crazy, but we've all been there as entrepreneurs. Is it can I pay the bills?
Right.
Can I pay my team?
Right.
More so than can I pay the rent, because I can find some place to work from.
Right. Especially now, right?
Right.
Especially now, but can I pay my staff?
Right.
So that's a biggie for me. But on a consistent basis, for me as a publicist, it's, what is my turnover rate? How long do my clients stay with me? People don't understand, and it's really hard to get folks to understand sometimes that PR is not a sprint, it's a marathon. So the folks that you think are overnight sensations really aren't overnight sensations. And with all of the work that we do, it really takes a good 4 months before you even start to see the impacts, both on your reputation, your awareness, and on your sales, if that is one of the goals of a good PR campaign. So it is, for me, how long are our clients staying with us? We don't do contracts, for the most part. We don't do contracts under 6 months, because then that is how, the time frame we need to really show you how we can impact your business in a positive way. So if you sign again after that 6 months, then I'm like, okay, great. Let's, we've done a good job, and let's go to work. Because that means, one, we've provided a value, and two, we probably have increased sales for you as well, right? So probably increased revenue for you, or funding in the case of our nonprofit clients, right? Funding, increased donors because of brand awareness. But I have a client that's been with me 3 years, and she actually, or that organization is kind of the reminder that we're doing the right thing, because she's like, nope, I don't care what y'all say in my budget, we need TJM account. Like, they're not leaving the budget. So that's one. On a consistent basis, in terms of like weekly, we do, weekly reports, monthly reports, to see, and you thank the Lord for you in HubSpot, what our email open rate is, because we're doing a lot of pitching. So we need to know, are journalists actually opening our emails? Are they reading them? Are they skimming them? And then are they calling us back? Are they unsubscribing from emails from us in that case? So a lot of that is somewhat automated for us in terms of that. And then, like, how many press hits do our clients get? How many interviews have we gotten them? We look at a client's goals, we ask them, top 3 goals over the next 6 months, over the next year. And then we design our PR campaigns to help support those goals. And it could be anything from website copy, as you know, to social media oversight, guidance, media training, anything. For me, anything brand related is on the table. Anything that impacts the brand is on the table. But one thing that or one other thing that I think really sets us apart is because of all my years in corporate America, I approach PR from a risk-averse perspective. I look for the loopholes. So the client that's been with me for 3 years, when we first took her on, she told me about a program she had where she hired someone in the community to cook meals for young moms and their kids. And immediately I was like, what happens if they get sick? She was like, what do you mean? And I was like, you let one kid have a peanut allergy and that's the end of your organization. So we were able to take that and help her turn it around to actually develop a program to help the community cooks, we call it. So shout out to the Alex House Project. But we were able to help them develop that into a program, partnering with NYCHA, partnering New York City, where these men and women now are getting their food handlers licenses and special insurance to cover the time period they're going to be providing meals to these moms and dads and their children. So not only are we feeding the moms, dads, and the children, but we're also creating a workforce development type of program and opening up the door to entrepreneurship for people in New York City Housing Authority developments and low-income neighborhoods. Wow. That at the end of the day is everything for me.
Right. And you talk about usually that risk assessment and sort of and honestly, with especially as it relates to the fraternities, we have huge divisions of the fraternity dedicated to mitigating risk. It's interesting because that always seems to fall under the legal parameters, dealing with, how do we offset or augment our business so that we can minimize and mitigate risk. But it's interesting that you come at that from a public relations standpoint as well. You spoke about a couple of your clients. How do you go about acquiring business? What is your marketing and sales process look like?
That's a loaded question. And I'll be very honest, that's the area that I struggle in. So over the past 6 years, the majority of our clients have come from word of mouth. And I remember having 3 clients or 4 clients and saying, okay, now I can hire people. And then campaigns ending and projects ending and being like, oh crap, where's my next client coming from? So Juan has been so gracious as to teach us about sales, the sales process, and prospecting and sales qualified leads and all that good stuff. So now I know the lingo. So we actually do, honestly, social media helps out a lot. I will tell the team, listen, let's find some potential clients. We'll go look through social. Then we will, okay, what's in our area? Who's using some of the same hashtags that our current clients use? Who's in the same industries? Things of that nature. And then we will start to just engage with them a little bit on social and put the feelers out there. Once we see that, and of course we've loaded them into HubSpot and we're tracking that. We're looking at their revenue because Juan helped us develop a client fit matrix. So now we know if an organization doesn't have a revenue of a certain amount, they cannot afford to pay us. So we do that. And we have started sending little snippets like, hey, and we actually have said to organizations, hey, we're stalking you, but it's a good thing. And click here to join our mailing list and download one of our insights. We just want to share some information with you, blah, 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 blah. And that has started the conversations quite frequently. But still, a lot of our clients come from word of mouth, which to me is great. That clients or other business owners or colleagues or folks are referring people to me. I think that's amazing. We do still need to tighten up on that business development portion. I told Juan a long time ago, I hate the word sales. It reminds me of the Kirby vacuum cleaner guy that used to come and dump all the dirt on your living room floor and then vacuum it up. And then your parents signed this during contract and they were paying for that daggone vacuum cleaner until you graduated college and got married and had grandkids. So when you say sales to me, it's like a dirty word.
But what you're actually referring to, and there is a word for what you're doing, and I do want to show it respect because it is a very viable way of going about marketing your business, is social prospecting. So looking at and prospecting businesses through their social media presence, and very inbound, love it, is providing them value by, having them, sending them content that's relevant to their business at the time in which they might want to or need that type of content, and adds value at the right time and at the right place. So social prospecting.
You actually taught us to identify needs. So we will look at somebody's social media or look at their website. And if their website is a little choppy, we may send an insight about, a website and what that should do and or website copy. Or if their social looks a little, funny, we'll send something about social, just something to make them have an aha moment and they start paying attention to us. The funny thing is you have us on HubSpot, and while we're talking, a HubSpot notification just popped up.
I saw that.
That we got a chat on our website. So thanks to Juan for that. And proof that I didn't know, I needed help, and I found Juan, or he found me, or God brought me somebody that could help me in that space. And, we have to, as business owners, especially as Black business owners, learn to be vulnerable to some degree and to trust somebody else. But then we also have to be the type of business owners that support one another, and that a business owner can trust you with their, their challenges and their obstacles, and really get help, instead of you being like, girl, she don't know how to do, or he don't know how to do.
Right. So kind of bridging off of that, I don't think it goes as a surprise. I think we've, at this point, let the cat out of the bag, that we've worked very closely and hand in hand with one another. We talked about business, we talked about small business, we've used the word enterprise, right? For you, and one of our oldest programs as part of Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated has been bigger and better business. Mm-hmm. And even for me as a member of the organization for over 20 years, it's probably been, and as a small business owner myself, it's been one of those programs that has been the hardest to articulate and to encapsulate. For you as a business owner, when I say bigger and better business, what does that mean to you?
That means more revenue. That means education. That means the right tools. That means the difference between me running my business and managing my business. Someone once said to me, if you're running your business, that means you can't ever take a vacation. Like, you're literally running every day. Absolutely. If you're managing your business, then the business still makes you money, and you could be on the golf course. And I remember being like, I want to manage my business. So right. When you say bigger and better business, that means ways for me to do business that are more efficient, that lower my costs, that educate me, because you have to be constantly learning. Everybody's industry is always changing. Especially after this pandemic, we're never going back. Like, there isn't business as usual anymore. This is it. So that just means opportunity for me. That's what I hear.
Yeah. So, I mean, you touched on quite a few things there. One I would add is great partnerships, because I think, bigger and better, you grow through the partnerships that you have, because as you stated before, you can't do it alone. And you can't just do it with your own team. You have to look to outside sources for a number of different reasons. One of those, because you're too close to your business, right? So having someone who's a partner, who can be part of your resource team, your advisory council, that can provide you and speak to some of those difficult things that you may not be able to realize or want to realize about your business. So I think partnerships is certainly one of those. And
you don't always like what everyone says. Let's be real.
Correct. That was the point I was going to make. Yeah.
There are some times when I'm like, but I then have to go be honest and be like, okay, he's right or she's right.
one of the things and you know, since we're talking about and being vulnerable, you know, one of the things that is hard for, and I think it's unique to, not unique to Black-owned businesses, but I think small business in general, is talking about pricing, right? And you know, we talked about sales, but how do you have these tough conversations? First and foremost, put it out there for people who want to do work with you. What is your agency rate?
We are not doing anything for less than $2,500 a month.
Okay.
And if y'all are mad, blame Mr. Perez for that.
For me? For me? I had nothing to do with that. But okay. So give an idea, because I think a lot of people don't understand what goes into how you charge. You know, the difference between what it costs you as the business owner, and what you can afford to do something for your clients. How did you come to that?
So a little birdie gave me somewhat of a formula that has been honestly amazing for me. When you think about, and I don't think we think about this, and my mentor too, to Angie, because she said it before, like if you are charging $1,000 a month to a client and you're working, you know, 40 hours a month, what does that equate to in an hourly rate? You know, you got to look at it like, what are you paying yourself? If you're charging somebody $750, then what are you making an hour? You know, and then add on all of the tools that we use, all of the software that we pay for. You know, I pay this stuff whether or not you're my client or not, right? I still have to pay for it. And then adding on clients with some software, you know, drives the bill up for that particular software if I have to add other seats or things like that. So, you know, not only do we have, you know, rent, I'm in an office space, I have employees. So my employees, not only is it their salary, but then I have to pay taxes on them and unemployment insurance, and I have to have workman's comp insurance and disability insurance and all other kinds of things that add up at the end of the day. So, and I had this conversation with somebody like, you don't have a contract with me, Tiffany Joy Murchison, you have a contract with TJM and Co. And what you pay, because somebody said to me, this was a statement. There isn't one person on my staff that makes that money. So I can't justify to my board paying you that salary. And I said, can you justify to your board paying 6 people that one salary? Because you're in business with TJM and Co. That $2,500 or whatever doesn't go in my pocket. You have the support of 5 or 6 people behind you. So if you were to break that down, if you had to hire 5 or 6 people, you'd be well over that $2,500 a month. Even if you were hiring part-timers to do the work that we're doing, right? To manage your social, to media pitch, to block interviews, or to figure out if it's the right interview. You're talking 25, 30 hours a month, maybe for a client, and you've got 4 people supporting your campaign. And I think that's a big thing people don't realize is that I'm not a freelancer. You're not paying me. That's not going in my pocket.
Right.
And out of that $2,500 a month, maybe 600 of it might be pure profit, maybe. It's not a lot, you know. It's really the cost of doing the business that you're covering. So.
I think a lot of small business owners don't evaluate or have a mechanism to evaluate what the cost of doing business is. You know, and the other thing, kind of bridging 2 conversations that we had here, is yes, you might be able to, even if you could afford to hire someone that could be, as you said, $2,500 a month, they also work for you, which means that you're getting the internal perspective. And what you need, especially from a PR agency, is someone who's going to be honest with you. because they're not in fear of you as the boss, you know, being a yes man. So outsourcing and having that that ability to have a conversation, have an engagement with an outside source is very, very important. It's like, as you said, it's not just you as the quote unquote publicist, but as the public relations firm.
Right. And the other thing that I had to learn, and this took me a while, and sometimes I still struggle with it, is realizing that the salary that I make off of my business is for the tuition I paid, the 20 plus years I spent in corporate America, every job position that I've held. I bring with me all of that experience, you know, not just a degree, but the life experience to navigate the industry the way in which I need to position your brand to make money or to win or to get donations or to do whatever it is that it is you do, right? I'm bringing 20 some odd years of experience, a degree, you know, I'm constantly learning. You know, I'm in a certificate program now, you know, I'm actually looking at going back to school in the fall once the daughter is shipped off to school. So I'm consistently investing in myself so that I can do an amazing job for my clients. You're getting all of that, plus my team, my team's amazing as well. You know, so you get all of this. If you had to place a value on it, you know, $2,500 is cheap.
No, absolutely, absolutely. So let's shift gears a little bit. I want to talk a little bit about the future. The future in two different respects. What is the future of TJM and Co., if you know, look like? And specifically, how has your current position been in retrospect, looking back at what you thought you would be at now, 6 years into the business?
Now, I always said I was looking at Ogilvy and Mather, the Black Ogilvy and Mather, but I'm not sure if I really saw it happening or starting to happen now as it's transitioning, right? We are in an acceleration period where there are a number of opportunities available to us. Someone reached out about actually expanding out into Singapore. So I'm excited about that, right? So global opportunities. And so not missing them means I need to make sure that I'm on point, that we're all on point. So I'm still gunning for, you know, this Ogilvy and Mather, a board of directors in the next, say, I give myself another 4 years. Okay. About another 4 years. I have a sign on my wall that says $1 million. That's the goal, the revenue goal for the last 2 quarters of 2021. That's the revenue goal. So in terms of a team, and it's funny, my sister said East Coast takeover. I kind of am looking at it like that. We have several clients across up and down the East Coast right now. And because of the pandemic, when I hired last year, I hired a lot of folks that weren't in New York because of the pandemic. You know, either they were here at school, they left, blah, blah, blah. But I am in a unique position to be able to operate in a few other cities, major cities. And we talked about that one, you know, looking outside of New York City for clientele. So we have done that to some degree. We have some clients that are outside of the New York City area. So looking to definitely capitalize on that and expand a little bit more. Mm-hmm. So, you know, I'm thinking 2-3 offices in 2-3 major cities over the next 4 years.
Well, cheers to that success. Speaking about the future, again, a lot is changing for our communities. And some not for the good, some, you know, I think we're seeing some headway in some areas. How do you feel that Black-owned business plays a role in our community development, and especially the plight of our people?
I think we have a unique opportunity to set a standard.
Okay.
I think that we need to kind of take it back old school. And I know this is difficult for some folks, but I am the neighbor, the business owner, the mother that's outside, like, don't do that out here. You know? Don't do that. I think we have a really unique perspective to get a hold of this generation through programs like the Summer Youth Employment Program or Futures and Options and things like that, where you can bring a young person in and mentor them and mold them and send them out better than when they first came in. And that has nothing to do with income. Doesn't matter. It's about pouring into them and giving them some life lessons and showing them that there is a right way and an appropriate way to do things. I think as a community, we have gotten away from the righteousness of things. I think that for us, sometimes anything goes. I know there was an uproar about Monique saying, stop being in the airport in your bonnets. I totally wholeheartedly agree with her. I have been saying that for a long time. I don't let my daughter outside of the bonnet. So I think that the way we show up as business owners, because whether or not we know it, our youth are looking up to us. They are looking at us as business owners like, wow. They are, paying attention to the fact that you are doing something legitimate and you're pulling up in the Range Rover or in the Mercedes or whatever. Because right now, for some of them, that's their only marker. So show them that you can show up correctly and that they should show up correctly too. So I think we have a really unique position to affect change. I think we have a unique position to affect change politically also. I think that, who we back, where we spend our dollars, getting involved in business improvement districts and really being active, not just entitled, right? Oh, I'm a member of. No, really be active, show up. Your local chambers of commerce. We have an amazing one here in Brooklyn. Shout out to the Brooklyn Chamber of Commerce and Randy. But I mean, honestly, getting involved in the community, it takes an investment. You want folks to invest in your business, you need to invest back in the community in whatever way works for you. Even if that is supporting a local block party, donating some food or do something so that people in the community start to connect with the small business owners that look like them.
So do you feel, okay, so, obviously over the course of the last year, I think that there's a lot of, the vast majority, I would say, of white America, and I use that term very broadly, and specifically white businesses that have become hip to things like Juneteenth, what exactly Black Lives Matter and that movement is all about. Do you feel that moving into the second half of 2021, that we as Black businesses need to carry that flag?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Why should they be? So white businesses or white-owned businesses, and this is not to say that this is all of them, but oftentimes there are the support of Black Lives Matter is because it's a trend. And there is
And you feel it'll go away at some point?
At some point, yeah.
Okay.
At some point, it'll go away for some white-owned businesses. There's a trend. It's a trend. I feel like it's up to us to carry the mantle and make sure that it isn't just a trend and that it continues. And that's just not even business owners. I think that's the Black community at large. That we need, but nobody should be, I shouldn't ride through Park Slope and see more Black Lives Matter signs in the window than I do in Bed-Stuy.
That's fair. I think it's a fair point. I wonder to what degree we've outsourced our pain to uh, to a community that is perhaps more equipped to get that messaging heard, especially when that has been a message that we've been shouting from the rooftops for so long. Doesn't mean that we put down that fight once people have co-opted it. I think we need to push forward on that. So I do fall in the same line with you. But there are Black-owned businesses that will disagree with us on that.
I know. And there are, so I've what happens a lot of times, I think that the white folks who have picked up that message or think they've picked up the message, it's like the telephone game. I think it gets convoluted in some space. I watch in my own neighborhood, I live in Brooklyn, I work in Brooklyn. I watch in my own neighborhood where, Black children are running amok and acting a fool. And the white people are like, oh, leave him alone. They don't know any better because Black Lives Matter. I'm like, nah, that doesn't mean he should be allowed to throw trash on the street. That doesn't mean that you should be outside in front of somebody else's house, not your own, peeing on the steps or smoking whatever you're smoking and disrupting somebody. Your right to be who you are should not infringe on somebody else's peace. That doesn't have to be the case. Right. And so now, it's like they were the oppressors and now they're giving us permission to be bad actors. That's not the solution. That's totally not the solution. So that's why I'm fearful of allowing white America, term used broadly, to pick up our mantle without us leading the charge. You see now all these COOs and CEOs of all these companies, Black women, Black men. And I don't remember where I had this conversation, but I'm looking at, okay, that's the executive level, I get it. But we need to put some folks in middle management. Because if you put this Black woman or this Black man executive at the helm of this company, and the only other people that look like them are way at the bottom, right? The workers, and all the middle management that has to now take that message and those policies and procedures and issue them and communicate them, don't have a darn clue. And things get lost in translations. And then you let companies say, see, we had a Black CEO, she didn't do a good job, she's out. We're just giving them the excuse. I checked my box. I hired my Black CEO. And they screwed up. But they screwed up because you can't give us one seat at the table and not have people that embrace us, support us, understand us in the audience. That doesn't work.
Makes sense. It doesn't work. So we're running low on time. I have two last questions for you. One that I ask of everyone, but I want to get into just real briefly about how COVID-19 has affected your business and how have you pivoted your business specifically. I'd like to hear a little bit about how you've done that.
Initially, I was scared to death. We had 2 contracts, COVID hit, and they were like, we don't have no money to pay you, we gotta go. And I was like, oh shoot. So, me being who I am, got a few of my fellow business owners together and said, let's do something. Let's have a workshop. Let's, generate some leads. Let's see where we have some synergies. And so we did that. And we were able to do a lot of copywriting and content writing that really ignited my team to be like, oh, wait, we're really good at this. This really works for us. So we've been able to take that and push through. Now, with everything that's happened, COVID and George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, all that stuff, people are starting to be like, wait, we do need someone to help us with our messaging. It is important because folks have gone virtual. They don't know how to operate in this virtual landscape. there's not person-to-person contact. There's not foot traffic like there was. So people are starting to realize, okay, wait, I do need somebody that can really help me to get my message out there. And so we're starting to see business boom. And because people are more comfortable with a virtual environment, again, we've been able to get contracts with clients that are not in New York City. So it was scary, but it actually pushed me to get in gear. And business is actually doing a lot better now than it was in the beginning of COVID. And we've got some new services under our belt, some new offerings that we can give to our clients, and it's working out well for us. So, and we've turned, like I said, a in-person program. We were able to take one of our clients and turn their whole program to virtual. And so that gave us a great case study and, a good example of what we can do to shop to other leads.
Shout outs to you. So last question.
Yes, sir.
There's a young Black woman out there, and she's looking to start a business, maybe public relations, maybe another business. What single piece of advice would you give to that young lady that you've personally learned and wish somebody told you when you started?
Wow. What single piece? Okay, let me think of what I think would be the most important. I think what would be the most important, because there are so many, but nobody ever told me that I was going to fail. Because there are just some times that you fail, but the failure is not failure unless you give up. If you don't give up, it's just a lesson.
That's deep. That's really deep. So you feel like you've learned, do you feel like you've learned more through those, what would you call them instead of
lessons?
Lessons.
Lessons. Yeah, absolutely. And still every day, never stop learning. Never, ever stop learning.
Right. It's, I always talk about opportunity cost, and, look that up, opportunity cost. But, what happens when you take an opportunity is you can't take another one. So what is the cost of you actually working on an opportunity in being able to get a new one? So most people don't understand that when a door closes, it's so that you can find out that another one is open. And that's oftentimes like it's cliche to say that, but it's actually true, because you only have but so many hours in a day, but so much capacity. So if you're not actually actively in pursuit of that opportunity, you may have the ability to see something different, as a giraffe might, looking out over the horizon. So Tiffany, I want to thank you so much for giving us a full hour of your time, and telling us what I already knew. And I hope that everybody who has stayed with us to the end has been able to of course, find out about you as well as TJM and Co. We thank you and appreciate your time.
Anytime. Thank you for having me.
Take care.
All right. Good night.